Hello viewers, well, time for a little multicam session on Supercross, Monster Energy AMA Supercross, the game 2018, and here we can see the various viewpoints here. Of course, one of them, well, two replay cams, of course. We've got that amazing GoPro replay that gives you a scene on the bike, plus of course the behind bike that I was actually riding from, and the replay there as well. It's funny actually, you know, seeing the various comments. You know, a lot of comments have been, why aren't I the best in the world? And actually this is my first time riding this course, never seen this course, and I don't necessarily follow Supercross myself. I'm more of a Formula 1 man myself in terms of four-wheeled action, but I always enjoy playing these games as well. Visually it's stunning, isn't it? I mean, when you see that onboard GoPro there, I was lifting off the power there a little bit. Now a few people have noted, why are you revving all the time and you're not pulling off the power? It's because there I lifted off the power and everybody overtook me. And sometimes you need to be very quick on the power on landing, and sometimes not, you know. And the only way to learn it, like there for example, you're sort of over jumping, you're not going with the course, and you really need to understand the flow of where you're, you know, accelerating hard on the jump, where you're not, where you're coasting down the jump and accelerating a bit on the off again. So there's all these little things, plus you've got all the tricks in the air and how best to take the corner with the biker leaning. And again, when you first do that, the biker really kind of oversteers from side to side. So first objective in these races was to try and just get round without crashing constantly, and if you can, try and keep up with the other riders and do quite well in the race. So that was the first objective here. Now this is wet weather conditions, which look really nice. I mean, running on the PC here really is by far the best version of this game. It won't look as good as this on the console formats for sure. I mean, obviously you've only got half the frame rate to play with, and an awful lot less detail as well. So certainly there's going to be a big difference, and if you have the PC, do check that version out. I would go for that every time above the console. I'm not at the moment expecting, I make a mistake there, completely off. I'm not expecting the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro versions to necessarily be that much better. I think it's just going to be a 4K 30 by the sound of it, which is a real shame, because we've got all this extra power on these new consoles, and there's no reason why your Xbox One X shouldn't be able to do exactly what you're seeing here. So it's a little bit disappointing that at the moment there seems to be some confusion as to what developers are allowed to do with 1080p, you know, and everything's about 4K. And I'm much more about frame rate rather than resolution, because that really impacts much more heavily on the gameplay. And when I had this running on these really nice 1080p screens, you really couldn't see much difference between 1080p and 4K. The frame rate really did stand out an awful lot more. So it's great to get all this footage. I basically went on each track one at a time, just got the footage, recorded the replays onto the next track. No time to learn these tracks, and really enjoyed my time playing it. You know, there was a subtlety to the handling, everything else. It really felt nice to play. It's just that you need way more practice, and of course then you've got the you know, the harder sort of pro handling modes, if you like, they have in all milestone games over the years that we've demonstrated many times before. So certainly it wasn't time to get into that. In that sense, it's not a game for beginners. I mean, I think a lot of beginners might struggle with this. You can see me flying off the bike because I landed too heavily there. You know, if you were on pro physics, I mean, a lot of the time you will just constantly fall off the bike. It's going to be quite challenging. You really will need to know these courses. But I think what's great is the amount of courses and customization in the game. I mean, there's so much to do and see in this game. It really is stunning in terms of the way it's all come together. And even when you look at the visuals here, you know, just the replays and everything, you know, really nice TV quality throughout in terms of how it looks. And once you get it right, I mean, it's going to look fantastic. Seeing all these bikes in action, and you know, especially with the sort of slow-mo mode and stuff like that in the replays, it'd be really nice to see what YouTubers can do in terms of edits. Now, this game's out on the 13th of February. Not long now, just over a week until its release, and then you can all get your hands on. And I look forward to seeing how you as a community get on with the game. Obviously, this is very much designed for a US market. So it'd be interesting to see how well this does in the US as well. I mean, comparing to a lot of the Supercross games over the years, a lot of them for me haven't necessarily impressed me in any way. This is the first one I've seen with production quality this high. We've got MX versus ATV coming as well, so we'll take a look at that, see how that works. But I always found that the other sort of motocross games more arcade-like, if anything. The more the bikes whizzing around every corner, and you know, less detailed in some respects, but it's a balance, isn't it, of physics. You know, I mean, some people, the hardcore, are always going to want a bike that handles just like the real thing, where you need 1,000 hours to learn how to ride it, and then at the same time these guys have got to keep people happy who, you know, have never played a Supercross game in their life and want to go on there and feel like a badass on their first run. So there's certainly different markets that these guys have got to cater for, and of course you've got to have all different courses, all different bikes, riders, you know, customization, absolutely massive. And of course one of the big things is the track builder this year, which I think adds an enormous amount to the game. It's going to be really interesting to see what people come up with there as well. The problem with the track builder is, again, it's a time sucker. You really need to put some days into it, learning what works. My experience was design a flat course, get the flow of the course right, then start using the 3D camera, start adding your bumps and your various different elements to it, and you know, straight away, you know, you start to have something that looks pretty cool. Oh wow, hitting some of those bumps, I tell you, it's rough, but that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.